Top 20 Surveyor Interview Questions and Answers. If you are considering hiring a surveyor or applying for this position, proper preparation is vital. For most people, job interviews can be a nerve-wracking experience. Whether you are the hiring manager or the applicant, conducting some research before the interview is essential. Interviewers need to be prepared with interview questions and know the responses to expect. Similarly, applicants should know areas that are commonly tested. This article sums up the top 20 surveyor interview questions and the right way to answer them. 1. Tell us about yourself. This question is commonly asked at the beginning. The interviewer wants to hear a summed-up description of yourself. Tip number 1. Talk about some accomplishments you have achieved to date. Tip number 2. Mention your experience in your field. Sample answer. I am a competent surveyor with more than 5 years of familiarity in preparing sites for construction and preparing data on measurements to found property borders. I worked in real estate before I ventured into this industry and discovered that my prowess was in this specific area. After that, I took up training and have been working in this capacity for 5 successful years. 2. What are your roles as a surveyor? The interviewer is trying to assess your knowledge regarding the roles performed by surveyors. Tip number 1. Talk about the roles you perform as a surveyor. Tip number 2. Show that you are familiar with your roles. Sample answer. My roles include measuring land features like shape and depth based on certain reference points. I assess previous land records so as to verify data from on-site surveys. I am also involved in preparing reports and maps and presenting results to the client. 3. Why did you become a surveyor? The interviewer asks this question to understand the interests you have in your industry. Tip number 1. State what motivated you to become a surveyor. Tip number 2. Show that you love your job. Sample answer. I am passionate about helping people understand and learn the boundaries and features of land before buying or selling it. My services are meant to help to build and satisfy local codes of a property. I'm an outdoor person, and I enjoy working outdoors. That is among the benefits of becoming a land surveyor. I get to do what I want in an environment I'm comfortable in. 4. What challenges have you faced in this field? The interviewer wants to learn if you take challenges positively and what you can make out of challenges at the workplace. Tip number 1. Describe the distinct challenges you have encountered. Tip number 2. Demonstrate that you overcame them. Sample answer. Surveying can be exigent. For example, keeping accurate data of all building codes can be a bit of a struggle. However, with the right environment and an appropriate team, I overcome such barriers with ease. I also find it slightly problematic to stand out in the sun for long hours, but I always come up with ways to cope with such situations, like carrying a small tent that I can mount when it's raining or very hot. 5. How do you deal with angry clients who disagree with your data? The interviewer wants to assess whether you can handle clients who disagree with your data. Tip number 1. Show that you control yourself when handling such cases. Tip number 2. Talk about your conversational skills. Sample answer. I am a steady individual who can effortlessly maintain his composure and remain considerate of both the client and the situation at hand. When a client is irritated and dissatisfied, I try to listen to their point rather than air out mine. I always try to reason with them, and it usually ends relatively satisfactorily and professionally. 6. What do you know about our company? The interviewer wants to know about your interest in the company. He expects you to show interest by mentioning a fact or two about their corporation. Tip number 1. Talk about your knowledge about what the company does and who runs it. Tip number 2. Mention why you are interested in working there. Sample answer. I have been following the development of your company for the past 5 years. Your company has maintained a leading position in your industry. I have heard the impact you have on the community, and that is what ignites my interest to be part of your team. 7. Tell us about your ability to work under pressure. The interviewer is testing your ability to solve challenging problems under very tight circumstances. Tip number 1. State how you remain productive under pressure. Tip number 2. State how helpful pressure can be at times at the workplace. Sample answer. I am well versed in deadline-oriented environments. Such environments challenge me to reach for more goals and work towards achieving them. I thrive in such environments. 8. How good are your organization and administrative skills? The interviewer seeks to know your organizational and administrative abilities. Tip number 1. Talk about your organizational and administrative abilities. Tip number 2. Respond in a manner that demonstrates you are skilled. Sample answer. I have impeccable organization skills, however, micromanagement does not fit well with me. I enjoy a task with ample time to complete and perfect it. 9. Share the most important thing that you learned in this job. The interviewer wants to know one of the key lessons you have learned in your profession. Tip number 1. Describe your personal experiences working as a land surveyor. Tip number 2. Talk about the values you've learned so far in regards to the profession. Sample answer. I have learned that commitment is very important in everything I do. Being committed has enabled me to always meet my targets and gain more trust with my employer. 10. Why do you want to work for us? This question is quite common in most interviews and it helps the interviewer to know your interests in the company. Mention some of your capabilities that will benefit the company. Tip number 1. Mention what triggers the desire to work with the company. Tip number 2. State how you can be of benefit to the employer. Sample answer. I have kept tabs on what your company has achieved so far, and I have been yearning to be part of your team. You have a track record of offering excellent services to your clientele. With my years of experience in this field, I have no doubt that I will be a great asset to your company. 11. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? The interviewer wants to determine if you are a goal setter and whether you can achieve what you have set. Tip number 1. State where you aspire to be in 5 years. Tip number 2. Mention aspirations that align with your profession. Sample answer. I expect to gain significant knowledge and experience in the field in the next 5 years. In 5 years, I will be able to handle more and complex tasks that might be very challenging for me at this time. 12. Have you ever made a mistake during surveying? The interviewer wants to know whether you have failed at any instance. Tip number 1. Be honest with your answer. Tip number 2. Show that you overcame the failure. Sample answer. In my previous role, I took certain measurements in a hurry and ended up with the wrong calculations. I learned to always take my time and do my work accurately to avoid such mistakes in the future. 13. How would your coworkers describe you? The interviewer is trying to get you to talk about some of your character and your social skills. Tip number 1. Mention how your colleagues would describe you. Tip number 2. Be honest and direct with your answer. Sample answer. My colleagues say that I am a team leader and reliable. Besides, I am available and always finish my assignments on time. They also say that I treat everyone with respect and that I am very professional in what I do. 14. Why are you exiting from your current job? The interviewer seeks to know your reason for exiting your current job. Tip number 1. Do not talk negatively about your employer or company. Tip number 2. Mention your desire for responsibilities outweighs what your current employer is offering. Sample answer. My present job has been helpful. However, I'm yearning for more challenges and responsibilities that my current position is not able to provide. I want to work in a setting where I am able to exercise my skills and experience fully. 15. What would you describe as your biggest weakness? The interviewer wants to test your sincerity and to hear your greatest weakness and how that can impact your productivity. Tip number 1. Talk about a strength that might seem like a weakness. Tip number 2. Do not blame other people for your incapability to handle a particular situation. Sample answer. I personally like taking risks, but some end up becoming a huge challenge for me. I believe challenges mold me into becoming a better professional. Challenges are sources of learning and no one can grow if no challenge comes their way. I strive to overcome every challenge that I face at work. 16. What is your greatest strength? The interviewer wants to know what you are bringing to the table and if it will profile the company positively. Tip number 1. Emphasize the strengths that relate to the position. Tip number 2. Do not exaggerate or lie about your capabilities. Sample answer. I am a problem solver and an action-oriented person. I find solutions to problems and help my colleagues whenever I can. This strength has made me stand out in the places I have worked. I will use this strength to quickly find solutions to problems that I will come across. 17. Why should we hire you? The interviewer is testing your enthusiasm toward the position. They want to determine if you will make a great addition to the company. Tip number 1. State why you are the best candidate. Tip number 2. Emphasize your abilities and how they will be helpful for the company. Sample answer. With over 5 years of experience in this field, I will perform this role excellently and as expected. I will utilize my skills to deliver my duties professionally and ensure to always meet deadlines. Besides, I am hardworking, resilient, and a fast thinker. 18. What have you done in the past 1 year to improve your skills? The interviewer seeks to know whether you make effort to improve your skills since the industry keeps on changing. Tip number 1. Highlight what you have done to enhance your skills. Tip number 2. Show that you make effort to improve your skills. Sample answer. 3 months ago, I enrolled in a management short course designed for surveyors. So far, I have gained some new knowledge regarding how to effectively manage surveying records. At the end of the course, I hope to be more skilled in managing survey records. 19. How do you stay up to date with developments in your industry? The questioner seeks to know how you stay current about developments and trends in the surveying industry. Tip number 1. State how you keep current. Tip number 2. Show that you are always aware of new developments. Sample answer. I belong to a professional surveying association. We hold seminars regularly and discuss new trends and developments. We also talk about ways to handle specific problems arising in the industry. 20. What qualities should a surveyor have to be effective? The interviewer asks this question to assess your knowledge concerning the qualities that make surveyors effective. Tip number 1. State several qualities that surveyors should possess. Tip number 2. Provide a clear and direct answer. Sample answer. A surveyor should have good communication skills to be able to give clear instructions to coworkers or teams. He or she should have problem-solving skills to resolve various issues including discrepancies between survey documents. Other qualities include time management, technical, and visualization skills. Conclusion. If you are unprepared, a job interview can be one of the most challenging meetings to be in. Before going for an interview, ensure to prepare adequately. Preparation involves understanding common questions that are likely to be asked during the interview. These interview questions will help you out with that.